True crime is our passion, but let's face it, it can get heavy. That's why we created Monthly Mood, a space to lighten the mood and lessen the load. Once a month, we invite you to step away from the doom and gloom and join us for something a little different. From intriguing oddities and entertaining tangents to thought-provoking topics that inform and inspire, Monthly Mood is your true crime palate cleanser, because even the most dedicated detectives need a mental refresh.
Hey, it's Chelsea, and today I am here with Shannon, and we are going to cover a monthly mood. Shannon, how have you been?
Hanging in there. Just been busy, and but things are good. Been working on a couple cases that we can get recorded here soon too. So excited to keep this podcast moving forward, especially with all of our new segments.
Very excited, and as always, we love to hear your feedback, especially about the monthly mood and the Beyond the Keystone. And with that, I'll give a little summary before we jump in. So today we're going to talk about trampoline parks. Are they fun, or are they a hidden risk? For the past 2 decades, trampoline parks have been a go-to spot for family fun. They're affordable, energetic, and perfect for wearing out the kiddos, but have you ever stopped to wonder what's hiding beneath the surface of all that jumping joy? Here's a question for you. When you enter one of those parks and are asked to sign a waiver, do you actually read it, or are you, like many of us, including me, scrolling straight to the bottom and clicking I agree so you can send your little gremlins off to have fun?
Yeah, I do not read that. I don't read terms of service, and I've been really bad about that in the past and have screwed myself over because of that. So I'm trying to read them more lately, but sometimes it's just like, are you kidding me? This is too long. So you just, super scroll and click you agree. Figure it can't be that
Well, it's
bad,
not even
right?
a paragraph. It's like a whole article, and your kid is sitting there pulling at you to go off, and you have to sign it before you can pay, before they can go. It's like,
Yep.
They specifically do that. I know that you can also sign them online, but still a ton of information.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I have ADHD. I can't sit and read that whole thing, I'll be honest. So apologies
Exactly.
to my kids and my husband for me not reading all that stuff.
Well, let's be real. That waiver isn't there for your protection. It's there to shield the company from lawsuits, and there's a reason for that.
100%.
Today, we are going to take a closer look at the real dangers that may be lurking at your local trampoline park. Some of the most serious cases may never see the light of day due to confidentiality agreements, but that doesn't mean that they aren't happening. So let's talk about it, because I feel this is a conversation every parent needs to be a part of.
Yep.
So one night, while mindlessly scrolling through TikTok, I came across an interview about trampoline parks, and it piqued my interest because I have taken my son Landon to such parks. Specifically, we hit Urban Air because there's one about 5 minutes away from us, and I personally believe the prices are pretty affordable. So I have taken him when he is off school and I still have to work. I'll literally post up and let him run himself ragged as I'm working. And I know I am not the only parent that does that, because I see other parents congregating at the tables working.
Yep. If you can, why not,
And
right?
I think I have always... What was that?
I said, if you can, why not, right?
Exactly.
they're still there under your supervision, but they're out of your hair.
Yes. I think I have kind of always known that trampolines are dangerous, whether they're in your backyard or at a park. And, when you think about the dangers of a trampoline, you're thinking like tearing muscles, broken bones. But have you ever thought about the possibility of dying on a trampoline or at a trampoline park? So after going through a rabbit hole, I realized death is an extreme case, but we don't really know the actual numbers due to confidentiality agreements, which the companies pay hefty for because they don't want the information public. So let's talk about it. In the 1960s, trampolines became an important part of sports and recreation equipment. Trampoline parks were built and they were kind of similar to today's. The problem was that injuries were extremely common, which garnered a dangerous environment, and the public's interest in these parks declined and they faded for a short time period. Because in 2002, a trampoline park was built in Las Vegas by Rick Platt. He intended it to be used for like this up and coming new sport, because I feel like people love inventing new sports. But this particular sport never took off. But the locals took interest and fell in love with the park for their children. And obviously people were kind of like watching this, and in 2004, Sky Zone took over the trampoline park industry. They might have been the first, but over the last 20-ish years, other companies have built similar parks. Nowadays, you have Urban Air, Thrills High Flying Adventure Park, Extreme Air, Launch Family Friendly Entertainment, etc. And honestly, where you live probably differs. Like, you have smaller businesses and then bigger franchises. I'm sure there are hundreds of them.
Yeah, definitely.
But don't worry, Sky Zone is still around and thriving. According to its website, it has more than 300 global locations, which is a lot. And this time around, the owners of these parks knew the dangers and created the International Association and Trampoline Parks. And it's abbreviated as IATP. And when you look at their LinkedIn, they state the purpose is to promote optimally safe operations, facilitate commercial success, and stimulate growth of the indoor adventure and trampoline park industry. And I personally find it intriguing that the majority of the board members of this association also own trampoline parks. And I feel like that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree, because typically, you have a board of directors and they come from different like industries, or different, at the very
Exactly.
least, different companies. So, it's all about that checks and balances, right? So having all of these trampoline park owners as the board of directors doesn't really give me any sort of confidence that they're not operating in their own to their own benefit.
Exactly. That's how I felt. I thought it was kind of like dirty.
Yeah.
Over the 20 years, these types of trampoline parks have evolved, and I personally feel like each franchise is like upping their game to be the best or to draw in the most amount of people or be like, I have this, they don't. Not only do we have trampolines to jump on, but we have jump pits, obstacle courses on ground and even elevated, zip lines, rock climbing, ball pits, like the ball pits where you can like fight each other with the huge padded things. There's a ton of activities that these jump parks provide. And according to the US, we always know the bigger the better, right?
Yep.
So trampolines already had high injuries. Adding these other attractions just add to the count. Let's look at how injuries occur at a typical Sky Zone. 1. Injuries are more likely to happen when there are multiple people jumping in an area. If you have been at a jump park, I'm sure you can agree, children are running rampant with zero regard to how many people are on a single trampoline. And these parks are geared to younger kids. So you could tell them until you're blue in the face, one person per like jump pad. Doesn't always happen.
No.
Or translate to them.
Definitely.
They don't see the danger. They see fun.
Yes.
There are multiple risks of having multiple jumpers together. There is a possibility of them jumping into one another and hurting each other. Mm-hmm. Or if there is like a sizable difference in literal size, smaller users could lose control when a bigger person is bouncing, especially since younger kids have lower tone and don't have as much control of their bodies.
And they're lighter. They're going to get launched higher.
Exactly, because the person who is bigger jumping, they're transferring their energy to the other person.
Yep.
And according to Diller Law, smaller users are up to 14 times more likely to sustain an injury relative to heavier jumpers. And that doesn't mean fat people. We're talking like a 4-year-old jumping with a 10-year-old.
Right.
Or a skinny person jumping with a bigger person. I like felt attacked. I was like, well, damn, I guess I can't go to jump parks. But it's just like physics, basically.
Yeah.
You know. So, number 2, users that attempt stunts. If the landing is incorrect while trying to do a stunt, the impact could happen to areas other than the feet or hands, or even if you're landing on your feet or hands, you can still hurt them. A lot of times, like, fractures happen because people are trying stunts. And you can tell kids until they're blue in their face. I've seen signs, don't do stunts. They're still doing it. Absolutely.
No fear at those young
And
ages. They just, no fear and no fear of injury and no fear of consequences either, it seems.
yes, very true. Then we have number 3. It is estimated that 13% of injuries happen when jumpers fall on the springs or the frame of the trampolines. Most jump attractions need to have these features padded, but they can become exposed. Wear and tear, someone could bump it out of place.
Mm-hmm.
You name it.
That was always like the biggest thing with trampolines. Like when I was back in middle school, I went to the shore for a week with a friend, and there was a trampoline park, and the springs were exposed because, we're going back 40 years now. So, there wasn't the level of safety that they have now. So it was just, it was just a trampoline park. The trampolines were, in the ground. So you weren't like elevated off the ground, but that, like I said, the springs were exposed, and that's always been like one of those things that just makes my blood run cold. Like, landing on that
Yeah.
spring or having your leg go between the springs and then the spring catching your skin and pinch. Oh God, there's like so many things that just make me sick when I think about trampoline springs.
No, I get it. I totally get it. So now let's look at the risks. And I pulled all this information from Spring Free Trampoline. It's a lot of statistics. They have even more. So if you're interested, go ahead and look. It's a type of trampoline that's supposed to be the safest type you can have, but obviously there's still risks and they're expensive as all hell. But you're paying for that safety. So let's talk about it. It is estimated that there are over 100,000 injuries a year in the U.S. due to trampolines. Out of that number, 34% occur at trampoline parks, so that is 34,000 injuries a year.
Wow.
That go to the hospital. 55% of trampoline park injuries result in fractures or dislocations. 90% of injuries happen in children that are between the ages of 5 and 15. The most common trampoline injuries are soft tissue injuries, 51.9%, fractures, 32.6%, and lacerations, 11.7%. And then you have this like 3.8% of miscellaneous injuries. The most common areas of the body affected by trampoline injuries are the lower extremities at 36%, upper extremities 31.8%, head 14.5%, trunk 9.8%, and neck 7.9%.
Wow.
It's crazy. There is an average of 2 deaths a year caused by trampolines. There have only been 6, and I'm going to say this exaggerated, 6 reported quote unquote deaths at trampoline parks, but most times these deaths have nothing to do with the trampoline itself, that I have come to find, but they do happen at trampoline parks, and those are only the ones that are reported.
Mm-hmm. Hence the confidentiality.
Yes, and sometimes we'll get into that. Trampoline park injuries are 1.7 times more likely to result in an ER visit and longer hospital stays than a backyard trampoline injury. Children are more than 2 times likely to suffer musculoskeletal and or orthopedic injuries at a trampoline park than a backyard trampoline.
I'm wondering if those two statistics are because of other people being involved, rather like when you're I guess when you're on your trampoline at home, it's just a matter of falling wrong or falling off and, not actually having another body to kind of crash into as well.
Yeah. So let's look at some of the deaths that I could find in major injuries that is actually public information. I'm going to be very honest. I was digging for a while because we all like to scroll at night and not actually go to bed. But the information is hard to find. It's like cryptically like hidden and nestled inside each other, which I found interesting. Like I was putting together all types of searches, and really, like, you need to specifically know what you're searching for it to come up. You can't just search trampoline deaths. You can't, like, I just so happened to, thankfully, that TikTok video led me to one case, which led me to another one because they're mentioning each other.
Mhm.
But the searching is like, it's not like if you type in Keystone, you might get us, you might get something for Pennsylvania. You type in like trampoline deaths, you're not going to find the actual cases, which blow my mind. And I'm sure they pay a lot of money for that to happen.
Right.
But let's talk about some of the ones I could find. So, June 21st, 2029. That's impossible.
You're clairvoyant.
I'm pretty sure.
Somebody needs to warn
June 21st. Yeah. It was 2009. My bad. 12-year-old Matthew Liu died while celebrating his birthday. He was at a park called Altitude Trampoline Park in Lowell, North Carolina. He was climbing the rock wall that the attraction offered there. And according to the Gaston Gazette, he was not secured by the harness and fell to the ground. And I also want to add, the floor did not have any padding. He hit pure concrete.
Oh my God.
And he fell from over 20 feet.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how was he not secured by the harness? Don't they have people that are supposed to secure you, and I don't know. Did it just, was it not secure enough? Maybe there's, I don't know, if most of them I thought are Velcro, which Velcro is like, really hard to disengage, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
I don't think it's Velcro. At least when we're at Urban Air near us, they have a clip.
Oh, okay.
They do have a clip.
Gotcha.
Now, after the fall, Matthew was unconscious and struggling to breathe. He had suffered from lethal head trauma. According to the article, I found it interesting that North Carolina and South Carolina do not inspect or regulate trampoline parks at all. They have like two agencies that do inspections for typical other companies, but for some reason the trampoline parks are excluded from that. And at the time, the association I had mentioned before about like the safety of trampolines, they said that they were going to work to make it required to have like a third party do inspections. Though I was kind of confused because the article said like for them to be listed on this website. So it's like, do parents have to check to make sure that they are part of this association before taking their kids? Or are all trampoline parks supposed to be doing this? I feel like they should all be following the same rules and regulations because they're not federally required to.
Right.
But they should be.
Agree.
I think it's an oversight. But anyway, Matthew's mother, and I'm probably gonna not pronounce this right. I think it's Jaewei. It's spelled Jiawei, and her last name's Wu, filed a wrongful death lawsuit. She believes that his death was preventable. The suit claims that the employee failed to properly secure his harness, the climbing area was not adequately supervised, and there should have been padding in the climbing area, which is like a no-brainer. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's egregious. Not having padding underneath a place where people are suspended in the air.
Exactly. And when I was writing this up, I had to think about ours, and ours is definitely padded. I'm sure a lot of them are now.
Yeah.
In 2013, a teen was jumping on a trampoline at Cosmic Jump in Harris County, Texas, One of the trampolines had a tear and he fell through, hitting the concrete floor below. Again, I don't know why there isn't padding as like a fail-safe type situation for, this specific reason.
Yeah.
But this child hit the concrete floor below. Evidence was presented during the trial that the company knew about the torn trampoline but did not make efforts to fix it or warn its patrons. The injury resulted in a fractured skull, seizures, and a TBI, and the family was awarded $11.485 million.
Wow.
The plaintiff's attorney, Charlie Guston of Crossley Law Firm, said, "This verdict will be a wake-up call to the trampoline park industry. If your business is based on giving children a place to play, you're responsible for making sure that that place is safe."
100%. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a huge amount of money. A lot of money. But that child will never be the same
Right.
again.
Exactly.
After that incident of gross negligence. Then we move to 2014. Emil Vogt, I think that's how you say his last name.
Sounds right.
Broke. Okay, good. Whew. He broke both his legs at Rebounders in Edison, New Jersey. He was jumping on a trampoline into a foam pit. And now this is going to talk about what you had talked about, your fears.
Oh.
His feet caught between two trampoline springs, and due to the force, it snapped his legs in half.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
He has needed multiple surgeries and an extensive amount of time to recover. And the owners of this trampoline park tried to argue in court, saying basically he's like back to normal, but he will never be able, like Emil's lawyer basically said he can't do what he used to do. I guess he was a truck driver and he can't sit for extended periods anymore. And I mean, they fought and it was a battle because this company did not want to pay this money. And according to the lawsuit, there were exposed springs like we talked about, and the facility did know that it was a problem and it had been an ongoing issue. Again, they didn't fix it. And even though it wasn't an easy battle, he ended up winning $1.25 million in a settlement in 2020, and it took 6 years to get there.
That's awful, and I'm sorry that's not enough money.
I agree.
Considering, if he's an over-the-road truck driver and he is now unable to perform that duty, $1 million is completely inadequate. Also taking into his hospital bills into consideration. Like
that's what I thought about. Like,
yeah, like that's just insane to me.
Though I would think that possibly the hospital bills were covered by the company since it happened at their facility.
I would hope so.
I would think.
But if they were fighting so hard, it might,
that's true.
When did they get covered? When was that part of the settlement? Maybe, maybe it was covering of the bills and then the 1.25 was for him. But I mean, and to say that to claim that he's better or that he's healed is just ignorant. Because if you've ever had an injury, like a broken bone or a like any type of soft tissue type thing, like in high school I got hit by a couple of football players. I was a manager on the football team, and they ran out of bounds and took my legs right out from under me and messed up my leg. I was nothing broken or anything, but it was my knee. I still feel pain in that knee, like, and it's I'm 30 some years later from high school. So, there's still that downstream effect from a significant injury.
Yeah. And the one article that I read, he had, like, obviously he broke both his legs, but he had multiple breaks per each leg. So it wasn't just something like one break, like 3 to 5 breaks on each side.
Right. Oh God. That's awful.
It is. Totally is. So now we're jumping to January 24th, 2018. Jason Greenwood, who was 46, died after flipping into the foam pit. The entire incident was actually caught on camera, and I think is still circulating. I didn't want to watch it, but if you are interested, you can. He suffered an injury to his cervical spine and had damage to his spinal cord. During the investigation, it was found that the 3 employees working there were not first aid or CPR certified, and they did not know what to do in an emergency situation other than call 911. It took first responders 21 minutes to get to him. And the park was hit with a lawsuit, but they responded denying negligence, lack of care, and the fact that the family signed a waiver that warned of potential dangers, something that we talked about. Also, another fact that you should know is, I guess during the autopsy, that he did have like an alcohol content that was like elevated, but I don't think like they didn't serve alcohol there. Maybe it was for when he had come, but it didn't. It was like, it's really hard and murky, and I think they're still like working on it because the first lawsuit didn't really kind of go anywhere, and the family filed a second lawsuit claiming the kids witnessing their father's death was traumatic. But again, I can't find any follow-up on what happened with that lawsuit, and it could just potentially be that it's still in progress.
I don't know if I want to go look for that video, but I'm curious, was it just the way that he flipped that caused the damage? Because I mean, the foam pit's the foam pit. It's there's a ton of foam, and it's pretty. It seems pretty deep when you're sinking into it. I don't know how where the bottom of it actually is, but I'm just curious how the injury happened. If it was landing, or if it was in fact his flip. That makes sense.
They claim he hit the bottom,
okay.
Which is kind of surprising because it is deep. Again, I couldn't find a ton of information other than like the lawsuit stuff. Again, they make it very tricky to find the information. So if you have if you can find any more links, or if you also want to dive deeper than me, let us know, because it's all very murky.
Yeah.
Like I said, probably for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he, if he died like immediately, if it was the injury, if it was like a sudden, or if it was due to the lack of care? Or is that still?
He died there.
Okay.
He, I think they said that if responders had arrived sooner, I mean, he sat hanging upside down with his spinal cord being crushed inside the foam pit.
Oh my gosh.
And took 21 minutes. And I did find another case. I didn't find as much information as I would have liked, but I found another one where a 20-year-old fell into a foam pit and he couldn't pull himself up, and he suffocated because no one realized he was down there for a while. And the family was pretty poor, and the company was really fighting them, and they just kind of backed off, which is sad.
Those foam pits, scare me because of that. Because you can't get your footing on anything. So like
exactly.
Anytime I've jumped in them, I've tried to stay pretty close to the side so that I could at least kind of lurch myself forward and grab the side. But you see all these kids that that just, again, no fear, just go flying out into the middle. And especially if they're small, they're not going to have an easy time getting themselves out.
Well, I'll be honest, like for me, I'm a bigger person. I almost weigh 300 pounds, and I'm always terrified if I go in, and I'm a pretty athletic person.
You are.
Ash Shannon, she knows.
Yep. She's a beast. Rugby.
I try. But I have a fear that if I go into one of those pits, I'm not coming out. Mm-hmm. Just because, like, you can't catch your footing, and it's like, I don't know. I just get really worried about it. I won't even go in them.
Yeah.
At all.
I think too, as once you have kids also, and then the older you get, you just become more cautious. You just, you have a little bit more critical thinking of what could go wrong, rather than just like jumping in and being like, wee,
Yeah, totally. So now we're going to talk about another part of trampoline parks. On June 27th, 2023, Michael Wilburn took his 6-year-old daughter to Urban Air in Noonan, Georgia. She was going on the zip line attraction, and at some point, the little girl had become entangled in the zip line cord, and it was strangling her.
Oh, my God.
According to Michael, the father, none of the employees moved to act or attempted to do anything to save his daughter. He jumped over the counter, scaled a 12-foot netting to reach her to save her, and he did. And he was extremely hot and bothered, as he should have been. And when he confronted the manager kind of almost brushed it aside and said that he would offer a refund, which blows my mind.
That's gross.
And is appalling.
So gross.
Absolutely. And apparently this hasn't been the first time that this has happened. I found that a 3-year-old experienced this in 2022 at one of their franchises in Illinois. I couldn't find a ton of information about it. I did find another article about a mother that was put in a harness, and she was not put in the right size harness. So when she started going, the harness slipped up around her neck. And when you're going on the zip line, it's moving kind of fast and your body is thrashing, and her neck was literally caught, and the ride didn't stop. The employees didn't try to get her. And she was devastated. It was at her kid's birthday party that was also taped and captured on video, and you can find that. I did not want to watch it. We'll have that linked if you do. So a lot of issues with the zip line.
Yeah.
And the video that I found on TikTok, it was because someone fell from the zip line. They slipped through their harness completely and fell to the ground, which is also concrete. And when I think about it, our Urban Air has concrete floor underneath where the zip line goes.
Oh, I've been there and I've seen that zip line. But
yep.
Yeah, you come around those little corners and you're almost parallel with the floor because your legs kick out so far.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. And the list just goes on. I tried to pick some from the beginning all the way to most recent to give you an idea of where the dangers lie at these parks. Again, finding the articles were not the easiest. A lot of them were linked, and you really need to know what to search for. And I'm going to give my own personal opinion. Our local one is a hot mess. It's Urban Air. When it first opened, parents would drop their kids and literally leave. The amount of comments by other parents in my local Facebook groups of the dangerous things that could happen there was overwhelming, and all the stuff that was happening. And sometimes it wasn't even just the parks. It was parents not attending their kids that were causing issues at the parks. A whole ton of stuff. And these unsupervised kids would spend literally all day at this quote-unquote park, and they were able to leave and then come back because you can get a stamp on your hand, and they started terrorizing other businesses as well. And these businesses band together, and they were so sick of it. There was a Chick-fil-A, a bookstore, Hallmark. There's a handful of them, and they started posting signs. Unsupervised kids could not enter their store, and they'd call the police. And I think that kind of changed. And mind you, this was kind of during the pandemic. That kind of helped, that issue. But I had an issue at Urban Air, and it wasn't a safety thing as you would think. It wasn't him getting hurt on a piece of equipment. Basically, the bathrooms at Urban Air, you open the door, and at least for the boys, all you see is directly at the urinals. So Landon ran to go into the bathroom, and I was standing there, and some kids were holding the door open, taking pictures of another kid, but all you could see were little kids' butts, including my son. And I was irritated. I was angry. Shouldn't there be a wall to protect that so you can't see that?
Yeah.
And so I went to talk to the supervisor, and he was a child. He was a teenager, and he was well, there's really not much I can do. He is don't make me be uncool and have to call my boss. He's on vacation. And he was really angry. He was trying to talk to his friends that had come to visit him on as he was working on his shift. No one was over the age of 20 working. And I ended up calling the cops. And this kid was just so beside himself. And when I set up a meeting to have with Urban Air, and they're kind of throw the same spiel, like safety is our number one priority. And we went over a couple different things, and they never ever followed through with it.
No.
So what's the point?
Yeah. And when you have, these younger adults, quote unquote adults, because 20 is hardly, legally, yes, but, from a maturity standpoint, not really. There's not going to be any type of leadership or management because they're pretty much all friends with their workers. Typically, it's like they've worked there since they were 18, and maybe they do a good job, not knocking their work performance, but they all don't seem to have the maturity to be able to make sure that everybody else is doing what they're supposed to be doing, like, because they're all pretty much buddies at that point, because they're all around the same age, and you don't want to ruffle feathers, because and then you piss one kid off, he's rallying the troops behind you. And I worked in a similar situation of like a family entertainment center, and a lot of the management on the amusement side were young, in their early 20s, like late teens, that had been working there forever. It's fine,
yeah,
but they're taught to, they're put in a position of management, but I don't think they're taught management skills.
And it's hard to manage people your own age or your friends, or to enforce rules to people who are your peers.
Right.
Especially at that age. And I feel like every time I've been to our Urban Air, I feel like it's understaffed, but even the staff that they do have, they're constantly on their phone.
Yep.
Or they're talking to their friends that are coming in to see them. And it's like, what's the point? And I have been more hesitant taking my son after the one incident we have. And if I do take him, I'm watching him like a hawk. I won't sit there and work. But stumbling down this rabbit hole, we might not go back. And
yeah.
You mentioned working at a type of like amusement park. My nephew worked at Sky Zone, and he was just miserable. Like, he didn't know what to do. Kids would get hurt. He'd ask his coworkers who were older than him. They didn't know. He'd call my sister to problem solve over the phone, and she was getting too stressed worrying about kids that she wasn't even there dealing with.
Yeah. There needs to be some sort of first aid training for these kids, for everybody
Absolutely.
involved. If they're young, they can take first aid training. They do it for, for children that are going to, start babysitting. That, there's those available
They do
courses.
it for lifeguards.
Yes. So give it to these children, or these, these young adults. Give them the proper training, so when something happens, they don't necessarily panic because they don't know what to do.
Exactly. So with that is the end of me scaring you about trampolines, basically. But I would love to know what our listeners think. Do you think the risks outweigh the benefits of trampolines? Would love to know your opinion. Would love to know what you thought about this episode. And with that, have a great day, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Bye.
That's all we have for this episode of KCC's Monthly Mood. Thank you so much for listening, and please consider leaving us a review wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to find out more about the podcast, the host, and the cases we cover, or if you want to suggest a case, please visit us at kccpod.com or send us an email at keystonecoldcases@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at Keystone Cold Cases and on Instagram and TikTok at KCCPod. Follow us on YouTube at Keystone Cold Cases. Please remember never to reach out to family or friends of the victims. Only do law enforcement if you have any tips. This episode was researched and hosted by me, Chelsea. Find all of our sources, social info, and contact information at kccpod.com. Theme music by Jamie Briggs and production assistance from Shannon Bickle. Join us again next week for another case to sleuth out to.